talk about a Genesys Community article that I saw about menu options, and maybe some different ways of kind of answering this. So somebody in the community did answer it, fully fine with that answer. I just want to kind of maybe go through and show some other options. So let's go over here and take a look at it. So menu, no input, and invalid input. Menu, no input, and invalid input. Hello, I have a business case where in a menu with 3 options, 1, 2, and 8, has the following behavior. If the caller does not input any digit, please make a selection and we would like to serve you. Should be played and should return to option 3 menu for 3 times, and on exceeding 3 attempts, the caller should be routed to voicemail. If the caller inputs an invalid digit, a digit other than 1, 2, or 8, that's an invalid selection. Please select from the available menu options, should be played, and then route back to the 3 option menu for 3 times, and on exceeding 3 attempts, the caller should be routed to voicemail. In Architect Inbound Flow, under Menu, I did not see any options for configuring around these, no input or an invalid input. How do I handle this or achieve these in Architect Flow? Thanks for your help. So when getting really specific with menus, this is typically the suggestion that's given here, which is to use the collect input and kind of create a menu on your own using the collect input toolstep, which is probably what I would end up doing for this, just because it is very specific to the inputs. So I'll build this out a little bit more, but because here in the screenshot they've just kind of created the object, and I'll show how we can maybe then evaluate the number that we get out of the collect input, and then actually say, okay, did we get these particular numbers? If so, play this audio prompt versus the other. But I also kind of wanted to still try and see if I can still do this even within menu objects themselves. I've got maybe an idea, and we'll try it out together to see if my idea will actually work. Cool. All right, let's build it out. So I'm going to go over to our orchestration area, and we're going to go to Architect, and we'll build a flow for this. Okay. Let's do creative menu flow. Create flow. I'll go through and do my typical changes that I like to make when starting a new flow. But actually, I might change it up a little bit because I do want to build out a menu. So I usually do the task and delete this, but I'm going to hang on to it. So we'll still at least do my main things here, which is main task for creating this reusable. And done. And just to make sure this alert goes away, we'll just put a disconnect in here for now. And then we'll make it the starting task. Kicking the menu down there. And then the other boilerplating thing is that initial greeting. I'm going to come in here and delete it. And let's add in an expression. And we'll do our to audio not set. Cool. All right, we got rid of all of our fun little warnings and all that good stuff for getting a main task going. So instead of this disconnect, I am going to go ahead and we'll build from the other part too with the collect input. But for right now, let me go ahead and actually do a transfer down to that menu. Menu. So jump to menu, and we'll do that main menu down below. And now I can get rid of this. So now let's pop down here and we'll just name this creative menu. Done. Okay, so we're going to talk about the default menu choice in a sec. But right now I've got this creative menu set up underneath the main task, so we're going to flow right in and then go down there. And they said they had like 1, 2, and 8. I'm not necessarily going to build out a whole lot of complexity with those, but let's build those out first. So we'll build out. Let's make them ACD transfers just so that way they're like something very specific. So we'll say 1 as a transfer to like sales. Let me get rid of this. And then we'll make another one being a transfer over to marketing. We'll make that one number 2. All right, let's get rid of these things. So un momento. Cool. So much work for this. All right, warnings went away on that one. And let's remove warnings on this. Okay, thank you for waiting for me with that. Let's rename these. Transfer to sales. And this one's going to be transfer to marketing. And then they had an option 8 as well. Should we just make that another transfer to ACD? We talked about transferring to groups a little bit ago, so let me just throw that in there as an option 8. So we'll go to training. Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's not make it that complex. Let's do... we'll do a transfer to a user, let's just say. So that's going to be option number 8, and we'll make it to my demo user. Yeah, I can roll over. Of course, the transfers are always going to have this. We'll get rid of those. Audio, and then not set. Cool. And we are rocking and rolling. Okay, so we've completed this first part. We've completed this first part of having these main 3 options. So 1, 2, and 8. Now, when we go back and we look at this menu, we have these menu options as far as like the number of times to repeat the menu. So we've already got it at 3. Menu selection, timeout, listen for extension dialing, all that good stuff. I don't like to listen for extension dialing. We don't need it. So we'll disable that. We're not really going to be, talking about speech recognition today, so we'll minimize that. And we have the idea of, what's going to happen when we do, go through this 3 times. Well, we can choose basically a default within the menu structure. So transfer to sales or nothing, and like disconnect the interaction basically. So let's see what's the requirement on that. I'm just going to disconnect that. So if they exceed 3 attempts, the call should be routed to voicemail. Okay. Well, what we're going to do then is operate off of the idea that we are going to have a default option go to voicemail. So what we can do is essentially create a silent option. Now, this may not necessarily fit the full requirements because it's technically going to then be an invalid input. But we even have ways of handling that. So, but for right now, let's go ahead and just create a transfer to voicemail. And we have to set it as something. So let's just make it like pound for now. And then we'll select a user this goes to, demo user or whatever. Okay. We'll make it one of my admins then. Okay, fine. So we have a transfer to voicemail. Now, I've got it as essentially a silent option because I'm not going to talk about it at all within the menu options themselves as the audio prompt, so I call it a silent option. And then I would do the transfer to voicemail as my default option. So that way when we do hit that limit of the menu repeating 3 times, it's just going to kick it over there. Now what I can do to potentially meet a requirement of still using a menu to still kind of have an ability for this default menu choice and some of the other things that we like about a menu, or maybe there's the structure of menus, but we want the invalid option to kind of give a little bit of feedback more than it would if we left this as default. What I can start to do is add in tasks to accomplish that as the other options. So I'll create a task. And in this task, I'll assign it to option 3, which is going to be one of our invalid inputs. So in here, I'll then say audio, play audio, what did they want? I was like, uh-oh, that's an invalid selection. Okay. Copy. And we'll just paste right in there for right now. I'd probably create a prompt, but okay. So, that's an invalid selection. And then what I can do down here is really just transfer it back to that menu. So I can do, is it jump to menu? Yeah, we just do like a jump to menu. So I can then do create a menu. So it'll play it and then throw it back there to that. Yeah, I mean, you might be resetting your like repeat counter on that. So, if they're clicking this, eventually we might get ourselves in, if they just keep hammering the button, they could probably keep going beyond like what they're kind of labeling as the requirement of being 3 times. But, we're at least accomplishing this message play before, giving them back to that menu. And then if they sit there and wait, it'll repeat 3 times and then kick them over to the voicemail. Okay. So I've got this new task here, and then what I could do is go ahead and create another task, and then, assign this one to 4, and then do the same thing. Well, let's go ahead and go, audio, play audio, paste, and then, do my transfer to the menu. This even might work too. Go back to the previous menu. I think that will actually kick it back too. So we got 2 ways of doing it here, like what I've got for option 3 and option 4, going back to the previous menu, or actually doing a jump to if you want to be a little bit more specific, or kick it to some other menu. But this is going to be annoying to have to keep doing this for each and every button. And maybe I do, I'm wanting this to be the same. So if I don't want to get lost in the fact that maybe I did make this one slightly different than the first task. So what I would do is go ahead and use it as a reusable task. So I'll go down here and say invalid input. Oh, I don't know. Actions. Save that. Now what we can do is put in that audio prompt. And then I'll go ahead and do that menu jump. So we'll assume the previous menu works. Otherwise, use the more direct jump to a specific menu. But let's just say previous menu will work in this scenario. Then now that I have this as a reusable task, I don't need these to necessarily sit here with their logic. So I'm going to go ahead and delete them. Now what I'm going to do is go into this menu selection, I'm going to go ahead and add in a jump to reusable task and then reference that one. So then we'll do this for 3. So there's still a little bit of work here, but at least we're condensing where all this, invalid input logic is going to live, and it's going to live in one spot, which is going to be down in our reusable task section. So, I'll just keep doing this. I think I might even be able to copy paste, and I think it'll just keep doing it. So let me come up with a good name for these. So invalid input. Okay, so I hit done on that. Let's name this one too, and then I'll just copy this one. So invalid input. Done. Now I'll copy it. And then if I keep doing this, it should be assigning it to available numbers. So did I do that correctly? Yeah, 5, 6. So that way we don't have to keep doing this, even just the adding of that action. So I'll just go down here and keep hitting this. I think eventually it'll probably go, if I keep going, we'll see what happens. If I run out of options. Oh, yep, it's starting to go red because it doesn't have an option to give it anymore. Okay, so we went with that. Let me delete this one. I guess we do have star. So yeah, let's assign it that one. Okay. So we have star. Pound is going to be our silent option for voicemail. And then I've got these other areas all leading to that reusable task. So you can go through and change the namings if you want to, maybe to the options that they are. So invalid input 3. This is 4. Oops. And so on and so forth. So that way you just have a little bit of a better view of it. So yeah, it does build out the menu to being kind of a large object now that we're going to have on the left-hand side. But hey, we're at least getting to a little bit more of the business requirements without having to do the collect input. Because sometimes when building out the collect input, it gets a little hairy when you're needing to know where is that menu, and a lot of times people might be used to seeing your menus all built out on the left side. So for this to be a little bit more scalable with other people that might be designing an architect for our organization, having the menu objects still being used when you do facilitate that can be helpful, rather than kind of burying a menu within a task, which is the next thing I'm going to go over. But right now, let me see if I do believe that I've got everything met. So my option 8 was a transfer to user. Option 1 and 2 are transfers to different ACD groups. And then this pound here is not technically going to be a invalid entry, voice that's given. But that's what I would do to try and at least get around that, or at least accomplish that business requirement as much as possible, is to at least have one of these be a silent option for the default menu to kick in. Once those 3 repeats do end, we do accomplish that transfer to voicemail, and then everything else would be an invalid input that does receive that message. So I'd probably come back with this design and say hey, is it okay if all of the majority of the invalid inputs are going to give that message and kick it back to the menu? Okay, if we have a silent option being pound for your transfer voicemail. And if I got the okay on that, then this is probably how I would leave it. But I think that would accomplish most of these, unless I'm missing one. So feel free to comment if I'm missing something here. Yeah, routed to voicemail. Okay. Yeah, so if they're an invalid digit, that's an invalid selection, please select from the available menu option. Should be played and then routed back to the 3 option menu. For 3 times and on exceeding 3 attempts, the caller should be routed to voicemail. Okay. So to really kind of meet this last business requirement, which is embedded in here about the actual exceeding of attempts, we probably would actually want to create like an index counter, which we would probably be able to do I would want to do something where in my invalid input actions, let's go in and add an update data. So we'll do an integer, and we'll say, oh gosh, menu option index. Sure. And I'll hit enter, make that. Actually, I should not have done that. It should not be a task because we're going to need to reference it and potentially other areas. Because as it comes through in another task again, it probably not going to reference the same task variable. So overall, it probably is smart to just go ahead and make this more of a global variable. So we're going to use the flow variable type. We'll do menu. We'll do creative menu. Menu index. I don't know. Maybe a little like menu loop index. I don't know. There we go. Okay. Okay, so it'll start at 0. Well, actually, what we're going to do is in this step, we're going to need to change it. So we'll do flow dot creative menu index +1. Oops. Okay. So we're going to iterate it when we do get into this area. So we'll come through, iterate, and we could do a check up here. Say, we'll do a decision check. Oh boy. And we'll do something like if flow creative menu is bigger than, what would that be? 3. I think, that because this might be, I'd have to, test it out exactly how it's going to increment based on it 0. But main idea is we'll just say that this should be the idea that if they hit the button 3 times, it's invalid. Our counter should go up to a certain level of where if that index is now over 3, we'll want to kick it over to voicemail. So I've built out that voicemail in the menu structure itself. So I didn't build it as a task. So I might actually build this out as a task and then do what I've done here. But for right now, let's just add in the transfer being to the user. So I'll just put myself in here. There we go. So yeah, we're then accomplishing this requirement of if they are pressing an invalid input, and they've already been doing this for a while, and our index is now above 3, so kind of on the index of the number being 4, we should transfer over to the user. Otherwise, we'll play the audio, increment, and then go back to the previous menu. This is how I would do it, to kind of meet that requirement as well, if it's important to do that, and be able to still meet the business requirements while using a menu object. So yeah, that's how I would probably do it. There might be a few other ways to streamline this, and I probably want to check it just to make sure that that flow variable is properly counting, as I've done that update data down here in the +1. Otherwise, I'd probably mess around if that didn't work right with actually using maybe a task variable, even though I think that the flow variable is the way to do that. And then, yeah, if there was, again, a little bit more heartache over the fact that there was that silent option of transfer to voicemail, I could potentially, I'd have to grab it still somehow. Yeah, I might, yeah. What I might do is build something to where within one of these main options, or maybe like the transfer or whatever, I'd make it the default option, and then within there kind of build a check to to say like, hey, is this like the third time or something like that, to then kick it over within the main ones and make that the default. So it's kind of subtly made the default option, but I built in logic to check to do the transfer similar to this within one of these if I couldn't use that silent option, and that still needed to be an invalid one too. So multiple ways to get at this depending on how specific to those business requirements we want to be. But I think the main idea would be building it out for each of these invalid options to go through a reusable task that would play that message and then kick it back. So just an idea there. So that is a means of doing it. I'm going to talk about the other way, which was suggested in this article, but just not quite built out all the way, which is the collect input. So let's do that one now. I'm going to save this one, and we'll just create another one. Okay, creative menu version 2. All right, I'll do my normal stuff. So create a reusable task. I'll name it main task. This time I will be deleting that menu. So instead of starting task, here I will delete this. Yep, delete menu. I'm also going to clear my clipboard here in a second. Okay, I've done that. We're going to do our little initial greeting check here to get rid of the text to speech. Expression to audio, not set. Close. And we need at least something here, so I'm going to clear my clipboard. Let's do that disconnect for right now. All right, all errors are cleared, and we're ready to build out our work here. What I'm going to go ahead and do is, do we need any audio up front or anything? Nah. Did they have anything in here? Just okay, yeah, they just had like a play audio step. All right, let's not worry about that. We'll put in here a collect input. So that's going to be under data, collect input. And then over here, we'll set some variables. So the input audio, this is where your menu prompt is going to be. So we'll just say, please press 1, 2, or 8. And then this is what the variable that will get stored for their option they've selected. So let's do, menu selection. Creative menu selection. We'll adjust the no entry timeout. That's a little long. So let's edit this, maybe make it down to 3. And then this, tool stuff can be used to collect, a pretty large number too, like maybe entering a phone number or an account number. That's mostly what the design or intent of this object is. But, we can use it for a menu style of collecting a single digit. So we'll want to go ahead and change this then to exact and slide this all the way down to 1. So that way we are very specific in how many digits we're collecting here, allowing for that, as much verification as we can here. So no verification, again, that would be more useful again for the use of an account number or a phone number to have it read back. We don't want that. It's really just a menu. So no verification. Enter digit timeout, that's between digits. Again, not applicable to us because we want just the 1 digit. And then there is an accepting of like, star and pound. We don't want to worry about that. So right now we've created the prompt and the collect input. So now make an insert. They can, dial, really anything 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then here, we're going to have a couple of things that we're going to have to build out. So this is where it's totally valid to do it this way, and probably there is a lot to it just because of how specific these business requirements are to use this. But we're going to see I'm going to have to build out some things here. So let's go in here and we'll say decision. And then we'll evaluate that input variable. So there's more than one way to probably write this expression. I'm probably going to write it the long way. So we'll do creative menu equal to, and we'll need this to be an integer, so 1. And then what we can do is, oh, actually, yes. This, even though, yeah, you're asking for a number, because of the fact that the pound and the star might come through, they make it so that that collect input, it actually does output as a string, even though it's really, we're intending to really gather numbers, and that's most of the time that you're using collect input, it's going to be for numbers. But, still the case is there that it needs to be an output of string, for the pound and star, which do exist on a phone pad. So because of that, that's why it's giving me that error right now is, we are looking at a string right now. So I can go ahead and one way of fixing it is put quotes around here. So it evaluates as a string, and technically a string of 1 does, only match a string of 1. So technically this works. I like to kind of do it more to the heart of what we're doing, which is comparing numbers. So over here, you can go ahead and do a to int and put this in parentheses. And there we go. We get rid of the error. So I like just looking at it that way a little bit more because, we're using more of an integer variable at this point, which I think is more true to what we're designing. So there are operators. So I would, if I wanted to do and won't work because it's only going to be, it can only be one value. So we're going to do or. I'm just going to copy this. And then we'll change this to 2. And then we'll do another or. And we'll change this to 8. Cool. So what we established is the valid inputs. So 1, 2, or 8. Maybe there is a way to kind of shorten this a little bit, and maybe I can make a list and make a list of 1, 2, or 3. Let's try that real quick. I want to copy this. Whatever. We'll try it out. I think there's an includes. Let's check it out. We'll just look at the list and see. Okay, find. Find might be what I'm thinking of. Yeah, maybe like find or find first. Okay, so let's do find first. Okay, so then inside here, let's do find first, and we'll do a make list, and within here, let's do 1, 2, 3, 8. Okay. Then I think if it doesn't find anything, it gives us like a -1. If the item is not found, -1 is returned. Okay, find first. So then if that equals, oh gosh, so it's like bigger than or equal to 0. Okay. I think that would be right. Okay, why am I getting there? Okay, find first at position 1. There's no implementation that accepts a parameter of type integer collection. Oh, okay. Well, we'll do what I talked about earlier, where we just turn these into actual strings. I believe that should get rid of it. Or maybe not. Okay, find first. Parameter type of string collection. Okay, what am I doing wrong here? Find first. And am I not like closing parentheses properly or something? Find first. Make list. Parameters. The collection you want to search. Value defined. Okay. Yeah, I must be doing something wrong here. Well, let's just copy this one I always do and just... Oh, wait. No, because, yeah, that should be the value. The return value is an integer. Yeah. All right, well, let's just throw this in here and see what happens. Okay. So make list. And we have all the... They're just doing, like, Boolean values. All right. Make currency. I don't really want to make currency. Make list. Yeah, let's do this. I probably have something that just didn't copy over right, so it's not liking me. Let's just do 1. Let's just do 2. And then we'll do 8 here. Get rid of this. Did I miss something? Oh, okay. Okay. I must be doing something wrong here. Anyways, there's a way of getting at this. I think you get the idea. I'm typing something weird in, so it's probably because of the fact that I am entering in a particular amount of data. But I should be able to convert this maybe in a different way. So I'm going to do 8 here. Okay. Okay, maybe there is... Okay, whatever. I think one of the ending variables here is probably what's throwing me off. Hello toString. Okay. Oh, okay. Is that we're finding? Yes. Okay, yeah, because okay, that's what I'm doing. Duh. Okay. So I do need to actually have the variable here. So we would say here we need the actual variable. So create, yeah, there we go. All right. That was my bad. Or just to kind of show you guys what I mean by like string stuff, let's do 8 here just to kind of show. Okay. So yeah, toString version of basically just doing quotes. So we've got 8, 1, 2, being able to be the list, and then we're going to actually see if the menu selection does exist in that list, which is our valid ones. So that way, if it does return something above 0 or equal to 0, that means it found something, which is good. And that means our true value is correct, and then our false is going to be an invalid entry. So we've got that set. Now let's do our invalid entry path. And in here, we'll do, what was it again? That's an invalid selection. Copy. Enter that in. Boom. Okay, so that's going to be the invalid path. And then over here, we'll be able to continue on. Maybe it depends on how you want to organize this. And this is where it gets tricky because now you got to build out all these different options. So maybe what we'll do is we'll do a switch statement. I mean, I could really kind of do the invalid in this within a switch statement as well. But again, just for visualization's sake, let me do the correct paths having each of their own cases. So we'll have 2 cases, and we'll say take the path that matches the expression. So flow, or no, it's not flow. That was what we used last time. So let's do creative menu selection. We'll change the cases to string. And then in here, we could put 1 and 2. And so that way, if create a menu selection does equal 1 or 2, we have those paths, and then we'll assume the other option being 8 is then just going to be our default option. So in there, we could do a transfer. I'm not going to fill everything out, but we'll just do transfer to sales. And then we'll do a transfer to another ACD. We'll do that to marketing. And then over here, I think we did it on the other example, we did a transfer to a voicemail, but I'm just going to do a transfer to another queue. So let's do transfer, and we'll just pick customer service. So those are going to be our valid options. So 1, 2, and 8. Just now that we get the picture of that, let me just go ahead and change that back because we want to see it. Okay. Clean it up a little bit. 1, 2, 8. All right. That's going to be our valid options. We have our non-valid options. And then, gosh, what do we want to do? We're probably going to have to incorporate a loop because we're going to need to go back to the collect input. So again, probably the way to get at the business requirements the best, but we're having to build a lot here to get there, which is fine. But I'm probably going to have to create a loop. Yeah. So above here, let's go ahead and create that loop. And then we need to put in an index here. So we'll do loop index. And then our max loop count is going to be 3. And then we'll put this collect input in here. All right. And then if we don't have anything, we'll do that transfer to ACD or transfer to voicemail. Let's put in just like an admin user down here. Okay, so that's kind of like our crash out is going to be that voicemail. So well, that's what we got to do as well is with the collect input. We need to make sure we've kind of got other cases taken care of. So what's failure going to be? Well, failure means they don't input anything. So we do have the option to go ahead and maybe keep the same prompt over there. That's probably what I'll use. But that's the main idea is this is going to be if they don't actually insert anything in. So I can go ahead and put that over there. So no input means invalid selection, and we're still within our loop. So we're going to pop back up to the collect input. And then invalid options, so that's basically anything that's not 1, 2, or 8. Going to hear that, and then pop back over to the menu. And then eventually we are going to loop all the way through and then go into our transfer to voicemail. So yeah, you can see then how this gets a little large in design just for like one menu where we're going through all of this decisional structure, but I've tried to make it as clean as I can with like doing this make list, find first. So that way we just kind of see the options there a little bit more visually. The switch statement, going to be for our actual valid paths, 1, 2, or 3, 1, 2, or 8. And then our loop winding up, playing these audio steps and then crashing out to voicemail eventually. And then we always kind of like need, something at the end. So that disconnect will just live there. But yeah, I think that's would meet their business requirements. Yeah, the OS3. So a little bit more straightforward for the invalid options, because we're really just evaluating the good path and then hitting those other ones. So we can meet more of that with this design. And have still our kind of our main area here being that voicemail, but depending on what you might need to do these to other menu trees. So you could do a transfer to another menu. If we needed to maybe do something differently for like a no selection, we could even play a different audio, like, oh, we didn't get anything from you, and kick them around that way. But yeah, main idea, the loop will take care of that 3 count for any of the invalids, and then valid ones, of course, we're moving on, so we don't really worry about the loop count anymore at that point. So yeah, that would be how I'd build it out when using the collect input. and making sure we got valid options for those. But yeah, let me know if you think of any other ways that you would like to build out, or like have questions about this build, or if you think it may not work, because obviously I haven't quite tested this yet. So let me know. But yeah, I think that would suffice. Yeah, let me know if you have any other thoughts. Please comment, subscribe. Let me know other videos that you might like to see on Genesys Cloud Architect builds, or really just anything Genesys Cloud related. Please let me know. Y'all have a good day, and I'll talk to you later.